Actually, it's recording. Here, go ahead and say something.
Hi, my name is Neely Brush. I'm at Gretchen Menn's house having a ball. So the cat is taking like up half a couch.
It's okay. Should I move him?
No, I didn't tell you to sit that close. You chose to do that.
I know.
Oh,
I just can't keep away.
What do we do? Hey, it's Neely Brush.
And Gretchen Menn.
Welcome to episode 1 of Muses and Musings.
It's our podcast.
We're so excited about this. Like, seriously.
Yeah, it was something that we thought about for a little while now, and it was just a really organic thing that happened where we ended up becoming really good friends. And
through several years now.
Yeah, and having lots of conversations, like really in-depth conversations about music and guitars and being a musician and things like that. And, oh yeah, sure. Do I look too tense here?
No, I was just like chilling.
And thought, well, maybe some of this stuff we could put in a more public format, and at least I know I find our conversations sometimes really enlightening and inspiring, and if it would be interesting or helpful to anybody else, we thought we would see what you guys think.
Yeah, for me it's basically like, growing up, in a slightly musical family and being a guitar player, I've always felt that it was so helpful the second that I found out that somebody else has dealt with the same stuff that I've dealt with. Mm-hmm. So if I was going through a problem, always thinking I'm alone in it, the second that, my brother said like, oh yeah, I felt that, I've done that a million times, or, it was just so helpful to know that it's not just me. But I also find that in the world of, at least my circle of professional musicians, like there's things that people are scared to admit or scared to talk about, and I was never that person. Like, I want everybody to feel as comfortable as possible. And it's just recently dawned on me that, like, if I can make somebody else feel that way because they didn't think that I've been through something and I'm not afraid to say it, then, like, I want to make everybody feel as comfortable as possible. And I just thought, with us being really good friends and talking about this anyway, it would just be kind of like the perfect vehicle to spread the message. So we just thought we'd get together, because we need excuses to get together anyway, because we don't see each other as much as we'd like.
Not in person, we talk all the time.
Yeah, we talk all the time, but like, I live in Southern California, she lives in Northern California, and it's not as it's not as accessible as you might think. So it's just kind of good all around, I think.
Yeah.
For us, at least.
It is. Yeah, and we were trying to figure out, like, what are kinds of things that we should talk about, what do we want to talk about, and we kind of thought for this first episode that maybe we'd start off with even just talking about how we became friends. Because I actually don't know how common it is in the music industry to become like really close friends with somebody with whom you're not working. Yeah. Right? I mean, I've become really good friends with my bandmates and things like that, but the way Neely and I actually met was it through YouTube or Facebook? I know that I saw one of Neely's videos.
And I'd seen videos of yours, too. I was just too afraid to approach you. You didn't know that.
Really? Yeah.
Maybe even until right now.
I didn't know that until just now, actually.
I totally had that.
Gosh,
I knew Yeah, that's why I was afraid to approach you. I was afraid to like tell you all these terrible words about your playing. I was just too afraid to say that.
But I saw one of your videos. I think maybe it was something off your first album. Mm-hmm. It was a playthrough video, and I remember watching it because I had heard your name before, and I watched the video, and I was totally blown away. And I think like a lot of people, it's a natural reaction that like when you see something that's really amazing, that can translate either into inspiration or into self-loathing. And the way that I think I've often combated self-loathing, though I certainly have plenty of it, is I feel like that like befriending the people who you think are awesome really helps. And I always go back to thinking that I have this amazing sister, Kirsten, and she's done some stuff on my albums, and she's gorgeous, and she's smart, and she's talented, and one of those people that I always say, like, if I didn't love her so much I would have to hate her.
Oh my god, I've said that about so many people.
And so I ended up just writing you, I guess maybe it was a Facebook message, and just basically saying, hey, you're badass, I have so much respect for your playing, or something like that, right?
I think that's what it was. Yeah, and it was like, I think I remember the instance because it was fairly early in me playing with Tony McAlpine. It was 2012, and we had been up here in the Bay Area to play, and Jason Becker had come to one of the gigs, and I think you were supposed to come
I had a show
along,
that night.
And you couldn't go, and then and the only reason I remember that it was that instance is because I received messages from the two of you, knowing that you guys are friends, and just being like, what is happening? What is my life? You know? And so I was just like so completely flattered that I'd always associated it with that trip, so that's what I remember when it was.
That's right.
And I was just like so completely happy to hear from you that I was like, oh my god, Gretchen Menn wrote me, I'm gonna write him back. And like, honestly, I mean, it sounds so cheesy to say, but it's like, really the rest was history.
Yeah.
Because how do we like really keep talking after that? I remember that we started texting at some point, but I don't actually like distinctly remember the let's exchange phone numbers and like beef. It was just so natural, I guess.
I do remember one van ride with Zepparella where we totally started realizing that we kind of both were a little sick and twisted, and we were texting back and forth, and I was like, oh, Neely's really awesome.
There you go, whole world. I am sick and twisted. Validation from Gretchen Menn.
Yes. And so we're thinking that maybe the topic today could be on competition and camaraderie.
Yeah, because we just figured, like, best to start with the backstory of how we actually know each other, you know, kind of have everybody realize we really are good friends. This is not one of your, like, this would be a really cool idea to do this together because we play in similar genres and people seem to associate us with each other sometimes. It's not like that. We're, like, really
like
close friends.
Something crappy happened to me today, I'm going to call Neely.
Yeah, it's really, you know, we're really close friends and we just enjoy doing stuff together and talking and all that. So we figured, because I think for us, it would have been really easy to hate each other. Don't you think?
Yeah.
Like if we had chosen to go down that road.
Well, we could have. I mean, and that's exactly what I was thinking, is it's you can look at somebody, like me looking at your video, and I can sit there and feel and want to dislike you because you make me feel bad about things I can't do. And
you can do anything. Stupid.
Let's say it's very easy to be intimidated by you, even now as your friend. Oh, by the way, as her student too, I take lessons from her when she gives.
It's not lessons. It's
but
just like us hanging out on
that'll
Skype.
be another topic.
Yeah,
that'll be another topic. But yeah, I don't know. I guess I feel that I don't want to succumb to that because it never leads to me feeling better about things.
Not me either.
If something you do makes me feel bad about myself, where I immediately try to go with that is if I take myself out of the equation and just be like, this person is doing something that's wonderful and excellent, and if I don't then reflect that back on me, I can just appreciate it for what it is, and then take that a step further, and now you're one of like my dearest friends. Like now I'm cheering for you. Now it's like, that's my friend who's
not only that, but
ass.
like we're just, well, thank you, but like we just gain so much more. It's like now we have an extra friend who's really close, who may come and, you know, may enrich our lives in ways that are completely outside of music and we would have never even known.
Right.
And now we have all this new music to listen to and to learn from and all this stuff. And furthermore, for me, it's just kind of like you're I don't know, a lot of people don't know this, but I'm just going to say it right now, like you're single-handedly like the reason that I look at things like this now, because that's not the culture that I came from, and it's taken me years to like got myself to the point where I look at things like that, and that's why I always tell people like Gretchen Menn helps me grow up, like because you're the one that's like really put those ideas in my head and like kind of asked me like, how come you don't, you know, think about it this way? And I'm just kind of like, wow, you're right, you know, like I've only been taught to look at it a certain way. Now I can look at it this way, and it's way healthier, and I'm much happier, and like I got all these friends. I mean, just think about like the last few years of us being friends. Like it could have played out so differently.
Well, but I mean, to your credit, you have such incredible capacity for growth, and that's always really inspiring.
Well, thank you, but to me, I just kind of see it as like, I would never want to be that person that somebody like criticizes, and then like you're that person who either is completely in the dark and can't realize it, or they're being completely defiant about it or dismissing it, because like, why wouldn't you want to be a little better every day? Like, to me, that's not just about music. It's just about everything. And, like, if a really close friend who I trust is brave enough to say something that's not that easy to say to somebody else, like, as hard as it might be to hear, like, I want to hear them out, and I want to not ever have to have that conversation again, because it's painful enough the first time. So you may as well, like, try to change that, you know?
Well, okay, so I talked a little bit about why, like, I tend to try to befriend people, especially if they intimidate me. It helps a lot, really. But also, so talk about like how your worldview was like around it, like, you know.
I mean, it's tough because like when I was in college, when I went to Berkeley, so I was like always surrounded by really amazing musicians. And it never seemed to be an issue there, but because we were all friends and we were genuinely friends. But I think that was part of the culture. Like, I think there's like this music school mentality that a lot of people are familiar with. And I don't know if you experienced that in college, but like when we would play gigs and they would mostly be frequented by our peers, we were really used to the audience that, you know, looks at you like that, you know, where it's just kind of like, oh, she's gonna mess up now, or I can do that. And it's like, it's not like we weren't supportive of each other, but I think everybody was like, you know, when you're in school and everybody tells you like music is a really hard career, and you know, you think there's only so many spots and that there's just not gonna be room for everyone. So I think you're just kind of afraid that the next person's gonna take something, you know, yeah. And so I think it was really easy for a lot of people to deal with that by doing something like, oh, you know, it's really easy to dismiss that person because they're not as good as I am. Or, you know, and that's how a lot of people saw it, even though we really were all friends, and it's not like we didn't root for each other. I think we were legitimately scared that there's not enough work to go around. And then, you know, a few years into like really working in the industry, like you just kind of start noticing the differences. You see what happens to people who support others, and you see what happens to people who don't. And you also just kind of notice a difference in how you feel about yourself and how you feel about other people when you act a certain way. And now with the world of social media and everything being so like out there all the time, it's kind of like one really big research project, because you can observe a lot about people's behavior and where it leads if you're just like kind of paying attention. Yeah. And I just kind of at a certain point decided that there's just a certain kind of person that I want to be and a certain person that I don't want to be. We're saying?
I was saying that I feel like that camaraderie begets more camaraderie, and competition begets more competition. So if you're in a place like a music school where even if you're friends with people, there's like a culture of competition. Is my phone in the shot? If you're at a music school and there's a culture of competition, that out of necessity, that's like what you develop to kind of just be part of the culture. Right. And yet I think that the more that we can see opportunities for camaraderie, the better that makes everybody feel. Yeah. I mean, really, nobody benefits more than we do.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, and again, this is not to like speak negatively about my own culture or anything, but you know, coming from Israel, where it's kind of a militaristic culture, because we feel we have to be defensive, you know, just to continue to exist. It's not atypical, I know, double negative, but like, whatever, like, it's pretty common to feel like the world is kind of like dog eat dog, and if I don't claim my own place, and someone else is gonna take it, because, you know, we didn't have a country, and Jews did not have a place to exist, and that was a real, or, God, I hope not still, a real problem, you know what I mean? So, like, it's kind of easy to grow up with that in the back of in the back of your mind, thinking this is how the world works. Where, you know, I really like to believe that, you know, living in this country with all these wonderful musicians around me who I love and are dear friends, I really don't think it's like that. But it took me years to understand that it's like people are not really as out to get me as it's been framed to me my entire life. Or at least they're hiding it really well.
Let's see, is it a good question for this?
You read it.
Do you think? Well, let's come back to that.
Okay. Name a difficult chord to most that you enjoy using in your repertoire. Oof, that's a tough one.
I think it's maybe, I would say less one specific chord, and that there are certain voicings that I gravitate towards. I know there was one that was in a photograph that got used in a couple of places.
Oh, yeah.
The F major chord that like totally...
Was it F major 7 or something?
No, it was F major. It was F major. Here, let me show you. It's F major with the third on top. It isn't even a hard chord to play. It's something any classical guitar player needs to be able to play. And it's like, all right, the chord that totally freaked everybody out. That chord, right? And people are like, oh, that's not even a chord, you know, which to me was so funny, because it was like, you think it's more likely that I don't know what chord I'm playing, you know, that I just like randomly...
It's funny too, because you take this away and it's a power chord.
It's a power chord, exactly, the third on top. And people are like, oh, So they acted like it was a really douchey chord, and I'm like, well, no, that would be a really douchey chord, but like
that pose where you're stretching just for the sake of making it look like you can stretch.
I happen to love this chord because it's this power chord and the third on top.
Right.
So
you can still have the third.
Which to me actually isn't.
And if you just do this, it just looks like you're D major. So I think people,
exactly.
Like maybe they would have recognized that, but no, that's douchey.
Yeah, exactly. How dare you put the root in the bass?
Oh my god. Yeah, that's the other thing. It's like the third on top, but there's still a root in the bass.
Right. So that's hold on. So that's a voicing. It's not a difficult chord actually at all. I think I just have really skinny fingers, so probably the space between the frets are yeah. Yours got skinnier fingers, I think. Oh, I don't know. But
skeletal.
So I think that it looks stretchier than it is when I play it, just because you see more space between the fingers.
For me, the voicing definitely affects it a lot. I actually did an article about this for Premier Guitar last year, but it's not just that. Like, I think it's important to remember that context is really everything, and a certain type of chord can be one kind of function in one context and a totally different one in another context. So it's really never about the type of chord that it is. It's really about the bigger picture.
Yeah.
But I think there's chord, if we were to just say we're playing this in total isolation and it's got no context, and let's just assume that your ear palette is completely clean, which it maybe never really is, but let's just assume that, then I think there are certain chords where people can just agree oh, that's a really pretty chord, or and so the first thing that comes to mind, and I'm just totally just throwing it out there, is that minor 7 sharp 5. Everybody thinks that sounds really pretty.
That is. Oh, actually, okay, so if we're talking about just chords that we love, I happen to love the French augmented 6th. That is, if I had to pick a favorite chord, it's a French augmented 6th.
Now explain to everybody what that is, because a lot of people might not know.
Do they really want to know? Really? Okay, so it's a chord that serves, and to me it's less about liking it on the guitar. It's a chord, it serves a predominant function, so, and it's made up of an interval of an augmented 6th.
Got it.
So it's actually technically a minor 7th, but it's spelled as an augmented 6th.
Right.
And so there's German, French, and Italian augmented 6 chords. All of them have an augmented 6. Yes. And so the augmented 6 resolves out to the octave, which is generally going to be the 5 chord. And the French augmented 6 has a 4th in there, which just makes this really wonderful, tense, beautiful
See, it's about the voicing.
It is.
Sometimes it is. Yeah, because you gotta remember the intervals between the notes, not just the chord.
Exactly.
Okay, let's see what else we got.
Okay, other questions.
Laura B. Whitmore asks, I'd like to know, what's something for both of you that has surprised you in your career as a guitarist?
We first have to give Laura a shout out. She has done so much. She's the driving force behind the She Rocks Awards and the Women's International Music Network. And she's awesome. So thank you, Laura.
Thank you.
So something that surprised us in your career as a guitarist.
I guess it could be anything. I mean, I think there are just things where, maybe there's stuff that we didn't think we'd get to do.
Yeah, I was going to say that.
Surprising opportunities that don't seem to necessarily have to do with what we do,
Yeah, I was going to say something along those lines. I think...
something like this.
Sure, yeah.
Not necessarily fits under the... I mean, when I was growing up thinking I'm going to be a guitar player, I didn't think this is what I'd be doing, because social media was not really a thing then. So I also didn't think, what our lives are going to be consisting of, or taking selfies with our guitars and making videos and shows and stuff like that. I mean, I didn't really think that was what my job description was going to read, necessarily.
Oh, yeah, that's interesting. I think maybe something that surprised me was we both got into the music industry when it was already in a bad place. So I think I'm surprised with just the modest amount that I have done. I'm surprised that even I've been able to do that much, because I think
give yourself a little bit more credit than that.
Well, no, I mean I'm not saying that to be self-effacing. I'm saying that because I had such low expectations of what was possible in the music industry.
Yeah, I think too, actually.
And so my goals were always about just trying to do as well as I could and try to be happy with, what I was producing. So the fact that, anybody ever bought my album, kind of blew me away. Okay, so our question this week for you guys is, has there ever been a time that you have changed your mind positively about another musician, either personally or musically? And if so, who was it, and what made you change your mind?
All right. So, thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time with another edition of Muses and Musings.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
People are gonna love it.
Okay.
Right? Y'all love it.
Well, like, I'm not saying it well. I'm not saying anything.
You didn't say
yet.
anything. I'm like
Just,
so distracted right now.
Yeah, let's spit first. Hi, buddy.
Don't forget what you were gonna say. It was gonna be good.
No, I don't think it was.
Oh.
Hi, everybody. What's not to love about Ferdinand? But it does mean that I'm effectively sitting on your lap.
That's okay. People are gonna love that too.
Hi. Hello. Do we have any final thoughts? Any other final thoughts?
I mean, I think that's plenty.